This year's Solstice event is one of the best seasonal events Bungie has ever done. High tier loot is dropping like crazy, and it's making the grind feel really fun and enjoyable. I'm getting like 3 drops every time I complete one of these Solstice focused activities. The problem is, this event is only going to last 1 more week. And what's going to happen when the loot faucet turns off? How's it going to feel to play, returning to a less rewarding experience? And what can this tell us about the loot economy in our favorite looter shooter? Hello, my name is Donkey and welcome back to another YouTube video. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and let's get into the discussion. Before we begin, I'm going to give a quick overview of how this event works. You're going to be spending the majority of your time within Solstice-focused activities that drop distorted Solstice engrams. These activities rotate daily within the Solo, Fireteam, and Pinnacle Ops playlists, with Solstice Scorched being the staple of the Solstice event now that Bonfire Bash is no longer part of Solstice. Now, these Solstice engrams are a +1 tier compared to the tiered gear you are currently getting at your power level. And if you get a holofoil to drop, it is a +2. For example, right now I am power level 382 and Guardian rank 8. When I run my portal activities, I'm getting tier 3s to drop. But when I get a Solstice gear to drop, it is a tier 4. And when I get a holofoil to drop, it is a tier 5. Personally, I've played more Destiny 2 in this past week than I have since Edge of Fate released. And that's because the loot I'm earning right now actually feels really rewarding and worth my time. Because Solstice gear is dropping at a higher tier gear than I would normally see and at a higher frequency, it actually feels like I'm properly engaging with the loot grind. As you can tell, I'm barely wearing any Armor 3.0 gear. I'm still using my old Armor 2.0 armor. The reason why I haven't made the switch yet is because it doesn't feel worth it for me to replace my old high stat armor with low tiered gear, which will reduce my total stats, when I could just wait until I'm a higher power level and I start getting consistent tier 5s. I mean, just look at this stat spread. It gets my blood pumping every time I see it. And so I've been grinding really hard to get to power level 400 and Guardian rank 9 so I can rake in these consistent tier 5 armor and I can really get my build crafting going. The main problem is, tier 5 gear outside of Solstice is still pretty hard to come by even when you're a high power level. Outside of Solstice, there's only 2 real ways to consistently get tier 5s to drop. The first, upon hitting power level 400, is a 5% prime engram drop chance at the end of a portal activity, which will reward you with a tier 5. The second method is upon reaching level 450, you can go to Kepler and farm mobs for a chance at tier 5s to drop. But from many reports, the power level grind from 400 to 450 is longer than it is to grind from power level 10 to 400. I don't know about you guys, but it feels more worth my time to grind as many tier 5s as I can during Solstice as they're readily available, and then taking a couple week break until Ashen Iron comes out in September, when power leveling is easier and tier 5s are readily available, than it is to grind the same activity over and over again for a 5% chance at a tier 5. It just doesn't feel worth it, and the loot game just doesn't feel engaging. And so this is the dilemma we are left with. How is the game going to feel when Solstice ends in a week, and many players like myself who grinded up to 400 to get all these tier 5 drops consistently are no longer getting this loot rewarded to them, and they are left with a really slow and sluggish grind. Now, to be fair, I don't think this is an easy problem to solve. I myself believe that tier 5 gear shouldn't be dropping like hotcakes all the time 24/7 like it is right now. I do think that there should be a level of grind and a level of time commitment and skill expression in order to get the best loot in the game. The problem is right now, the only way to get this high tier gear in the game is by banging your head against the wall. The question you have to ask yourself is it worth banging your head against the wall for the next month until Ashen Iron comes out, or is it better off taking a sweet vacay, sitting on the beach, maybe playing some Battlefield beta until Ashen Iron comes out? The grind gets to a certain point where your eyes are rolling in the back of your head when you load into your 800th run of Caldera. This style of grind is just not sustainable. It also doesn't help that skill expression isn't really present in the grind. It doesn't take that much skill to run Caldera over and over again compared to running a raid or a dungeon. And when you do a raid in a dungeon, you aren't even rewarded with high tier gear or powerful drops. I mentioned this in my previous video about the portal. Link to that will be in the description if you want to check it out. Now, personally, I don't want to be a complete negative Nancy and make all my videos be pure negative criticism and don't provide any feedback or any solutions to the problems I'm talking about. I want to be a force of good in the community, and I want to have meaningful discussions with meaningful solutions. I want to say I think tier 5s are a great solution to the stagnant loot grind we had prior to Edge of Fate. The main problem is they're very difficult to access even for a lot of hardcore players, and they feel impossible to get for casual players. Now, like I said, I do believe there should be a grind and time investment for this gear, but I don't believe casual players should be completely and utterly locked out of the possibility of getting a couple tier 5s. Since Destiny is moving away from the more long-term MMO style grind and more towards the Diablo and Path of Exile style seasonal reset and grind, I think it's important to take a couple more notes out of their book than Destiny currently is. In Diablo, for example, higher tiered and rarity gear is usually locked within the end game, but the game doesn't completely lock you out of the possibility of receiving high rarity gear when you're a lower level player. There's always a chance you can get that juicer legendary juicer drop every time you complete an activity in Diablo and Path of Exile, but in Destiny that doesn't really exist. Sure, you can get the occasional 5% prime chance, but that only gives you a +1 to your tiered gear. What if there was always a very slim chance to receive a tier 5 drop no matter what light level, guardian rank, or activity you were playing? There was always a small chance you can get a tier 5 drop, and that drop chance went up a little bit more and more as you increased in power level until you reached the ultimate difficulty and tier 5s became readily available. This allows for a lot of casual gamers to still gain access to tier 5 gear. Maybe it's not enough to get them a full set, but it's enough to get their foot in the door and maybe convince them that the grind is really worth it. When I got my tier 5 Yeartide Apex to drop, I jumped out of my seat because I was so excited I finally got a tier 5. And it really cemented to me that I had to grind to get as many of these as possible. Now imagine you're a casual gamer and you're just playing some Crucible matches and boom, you get that juicer tier 5 weapon roll. Maybe that gets you into the grind. You say, damn, I need more of that. I gotta grind hard so I can get more of that tier 5. That's how you build dedicated players. That's how you build a hardcore base. That's how you get people invested in your game because, sure, maybe they're not running the most difficult activities in the game, but there's still a level of reward for their time. But I think that's all for me, folks, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a good rest of your day. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. But that's all for me, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.